guys, welcome to my part 2 of a tutorial where I explain the concept of how I incorporate, I guess, the first three fundamentals or foundations in how I design weaponizing, or the concept of saying weaponizing shapes, how I design fantasy weapons and or props. And I'm super excited to share this with you guys, because I guess it's the next step where usually you, well, first of all, of course, I hope you guys have a sketchbook with you or a drawing tablet or something to make marks with on the wall or something to make marks with in general. So you can draw along with me or just, practice drawing on whatever you want to and just let the soothingness of my voice guide you in this journey. But before we get further into that, just to let you guys know, you can support me on Ko-fi to keep this stream going. Or also just support me so I can get a better sounding, better quality, so I can, I can talk to you and do more just straight voice recordings for the price of a coffee. Just buy me a coffee, and you just hit the support button for that. And and it's not really a tier thing, but if you support me, you get access to my notes that I have here, or notes that I upload that aren't just on videos. Early access to post or comic books, or animations I have, of course, because post this on, or I'll try to post this on here first. You'll get high res downloads of sketches or pre-sketches or process sketches, not the finished image for concerns of copyright reasons, but most definitely the progression edits from images, backgrounds, and that will only be on here. And sometimes you'll get special vocal tutorials on projects I'm currently working on that aren't just for the YouTube. So, and these will most likely be for if you subscribe to give me, buy me like a coffee a month, a nice little cappuccino a month. That'd be nice. So yeah, and of course I'll make little posts here, so like updates you'll get first here. And so yeah, if you can support me on Ko-fi, link will be in my description, on my social medias. So yeah, please check it out. So now we're gonna go into weaponizing shapes. So what do you mean by weaponizing shapes? As like I just said before, it's how I make props out from shapes. So I hope that you guys took the time to practice drawing these our basic, our pyramid, our cube, our sphere and cylinder in different perspectives. And you can just literally Google different perspectives or different shapes. So not just like not a pyramid that's just like this, but pyramid on its side. And what helps is also just having it, those shapes around you. If you guys if you ever want to get into owning clay, that actually helps a lot by just having a cheap model, like some cheap clay you can mold, just to practice how it looks and drawing it, because drawing from straight from the eye is one of the most powerful things you can do. So there's those practicing techniques, so you can learn how to draw stuff like a car. And so we'll be using shape, line quality, and a little bit of value to explain certain designs. And I'll show you guys some examples of props I've made in the past. So I've made these cute little props here, and you can pretty much see, the shapes that were kind of used here. So as you can see, this is clearly just a cube in perspective. This is literally just a lumpy circle, kind of a squished, like a cylinder, but it's it's a stumpy cylinder. And then another cube, just a little bit longer. And that's pretty much as simple as it gets. It just, like I said, it just comes with practicing. These are in perspective, and we'll get into that another time. But if anything, we're just trying to learn how to use shapes in those perspectives. Another example is here. And so this is a cylinder, literally. This is a very skinty cube of sort, or box, another form of a cube, and this can be another form of a cube. And that's just pretty much in the concept of just practicing drawing your basic shapes differently. So the reason why I brought this idea up was me looking at tutorials and seeing, like, they're saying, how do you draw a tree? Well, they say you do the brown stick, and then you do the brown stick with the circle or a lumpy circle, and then you do the colors, but either darker or lighter, a different texture. You're like, oh, a little bit confusing there, boss. So right now, we're gonna grasp this part, because eventually but we're gonna do this part, but we're going to expand upon it so you can understand how something like this can easily be designed, and it's not as complicated as you may think. Because when you'll look at it and you think it's a complicated design, but at the end of the day, it's just more curves into it. And that's another thing we were talking about, is negative space. If something seems complicated, look at it through the negative space. See? Pretty. And so at the end of the day, you'll see it like this. You'll see the negative space around it. And so it's like and if you want to put into term, it's technically a cylinder, but it's kind of has a curve to it, like a little macaroni, like a ton of little macaronis put together. See? And that's a way to look at it. So, what I did earlier, so we have this, is that I designed a weapon and this weapon, and so let me show you the characters that we're going based off of. So this is the character lineup, and we're going to do weapons. And each character has a weapon that's based on like a artistic tool of sort. So the first character we looked at was this character right here. And so his character design is pretty much a doll or a puppet of some sort, who has an ink brush or ink brush, and it goes based on like the Asian ink brush style, which is really cool, and that his stomach is like has infinite ink and all that stuff. But his brush can also turn into a giant sword. And so I did just some simple quick research on that design, and this is a lance actually, but I wanted to take cool references from that lance, and so I did this, but I guess to simplify it. So usually swords from the style is usually just a rectangle, flat rectangle. Let's just go with a flat rectangle. Long or small, we usually go with a rectangle. If it's a shorter sword, you just do a shorter rectangle. But we're going with like a little longer sword. So what I did was say, and because this is in a foreshortened, it's hard to tell. So usually you just take qualities. So I would say this is about halfway through. And so at the halfway point, there's a curve up. Use a different color. There's a curve up. And then towards the other half, there's like a little bite of some sort, like someone took a bite out of it. And then a little shark fin at the end. And this doesn't have to look perfect. I'm just drawing what I noticed. And at some point when you start creating stuff, your mind will already do this. This is just me drawing it out, but when you get to a certain point, you can just think this up and notice this immediately. And that's how you create. And then of course at the end there's like a circle. And you're not gonna draw like this. You kind of You usually draw it because you know it's facing you. It's gonna be like a little facing from the side. Just drawing straight out. It's a lance. So you see these qualities. I like this little shark fin. I like this little bite. I like this circle here. And so when I created this, the qualities that I took were the shark fin, the bite, and the circle. So when drawing this, I did a rectangle. It's a flat rectangle because we're not doing anything perspective right now. We're just literally just trying to draw, like get a full view of the design. And so at the top, there's a shark fin, so I drew outside. And then I did, so that's like a shark fin. And then I did a bite. And I did it straight for right now. Another bite. And then it comes down to the end. A skinny neck. And that's it. And then I remember that I liked this part here. So instead of worrying about the circle, I did 2 parallel lines. Curve it at the end. And then the hilt is literally a cylinder. And that's just that right there. So I was like, it's cool, but I don't like how it just goes like that. Or something like, I just don't like how it looks. So to make, what's it called? Continuity? Well, for me, to make it look a little bit more fluid, I wanted the sword to do that. So because I didn't like how it went like that. So what I did is that I just curved it out more. Kept the bites. And I just followed the line out. And then did the line across from there at an angle. So it's like an X. And then just do a parallel line. Curved it out. And then just reconnected it to that line. And then the details come in later. And that comes from just literally looking at the design itself and trying to mimic qualities that you liked about it. And then just finishing semicircle. But this comes mostly for observation. Try drawing stuff that you see in front of you and as is. Like if you have a bottle that's cool or a hat that looks cool, try drawing it. Try drawing it and then like add fun qualities to it, like some ears or some spikes by using literally the shapes that you've learned and put a cylinder on it with some spikes going out of it. But it just takes practice to understand what you're trying to create. But this is just weaponizing shapes. You're using shapes to add characterization to the thing. Alright, and so we have that design down. Oh, and so the thing about this sword is that it's supposed to also be like an ink container. So it's like a glass sword with like indestructible glass, and then this is like the paintbrush because you see this thing is like paint ink and stuff. So just a cool little thing. And this just comes with mental creativity because once you learn how to design the shape, you can really think of some cool stuff about it. So it's a sword, and then at the end there's a paintbrush and drips. But so this was just to explain if you have a cup of some sort, because this was just to explain how I made it look like that it was filled with a liquid. If it's a standing liquid, it doesn't touch the edges. And then you can like fill it with a solid color or not, it's up to you. And if it's a solid with like ice, it usually is just a cube, depending on the shape of the ice. It can be a circle, there's such thing as circle ice. Or if it's crushed, just bumpy ice. But it's usually when it's in a glass, the glass isn't like thin. It usually has like a thickness to it, and that's why we don't have it usually touching the edges. Boop. And then if it was a gas of some sort, I guess, like if it was like for here, if there was like an energy emitting from it, it too would not be technically touching it, but it would be thick because there's an aura around it, and then usually it would thin out as you go to the top. And it's usually like wavy. So that's just an example there. As for gas, if there's like a circle going there. So yeah, so that's one character down. So next, we were just skipping around to this character. As you can see, this character has floating orbs, and what I want it to be is like materialized. And so what I did, it's gonna look like this. And so also this character is kind of like old school and cartoon based. So I wanted to do the old like glove hands and glove boots and stuff. So what I did here, and so I drew a small stick man for perspective. So I have a little small stick man just to show where they're at. And I did blocks, but didn't like how they were rectangle. I would prefer to make them square, but then I realized that was a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So what I recommend you doing first is doing spears. And then for the hands, and then a little spear, and right on top of it, a big spear for the boots. And then for the wrist, like possibly a cylinder that's attached to them. And so with that, for the knuckles, you do like little stripes towards the end. Also, of course, Google is free, just like I did here. Google cartoon gloves. Like that helps so much, seeing how other people drew it, and try to do like the cartoon gloves in a fist, and practice drawing what you see there. That helps a ton. Because these are technically hands, this is anatomy, it could be a little more difficult since we haven't covered anatomy. But also, if you just look at them as items, you can see them like baked bread. And it's easier to think of it because you think of like a little nub circle here, and then maybe three little nubs here, 3 little nubs on the end. And that's pretty much it. And of course the glove has a little lip, so you draw a semicircle on each end. And that's pretty much the hand. What you do is take your an eraser, and I hope you're drawing with a pencil for that effect, and then just erase the extra 3 spots. Because you gotta kind of connect them. And you just made knuckles. Not the Sonic knuckles. That we ain't there yet. And then you got like, there's like weird dimples or some stuff. And then for the shoes, you draw a semicircle on top of the smaller circle. Also, just a reminder, if you want to just do something perspective, the one that's further away is usually just a little bit smaller than the one that's closer. So that's a good little helpful tip. So back to the shoes, you gotta draw the heel. So another semicircle at the bottom. And so turn that down. I turn it down, I think. So a little tip I do is that when digitally drawing, I just turn that down because that's just for me, that's my just like idea layer to get the idea across. And because I know I just draw and draw and draw, but to realize it, and then I draw again. And this is where I draw exactly what I know I want to draw first. What was good? Bendy and Ink Machine is some good references because his character has like hands and knuckles all the time. So yeah, I would try that. And now just simple, and it just comes with practice. You literally, I say, you literally gotta practice almost everything. But yeah, you draw the hands and knuckles. Yeah, yeah, you can just, and that's pretty much how this character, these giant things. And then you finish the semicircle. Right now I'm just drawing the outline. Boop. Yeah, if anything, the outline. And then draw a circle to show the feet going in, but there's no, it's like a ghost, it's like a stand. Okay. And so that's that. And so the character, these would probably be like primary color, very simplified, existing objects. And then if I remove the stick character, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, I'm just getting rid of the excess stuff. Yeah, and that's how I did that. Cool. So now the next design we're gonna do is this character. And so his character, he's technically like a master. As you can see, like he has like, he's mastered, like he has a ton of brushes, so he's like a brush master. And so I guess one of his like main weapons now is like what they do is that they get really big and he can use them as big weapons. And so something I thought was just like an easy, cool weapon is like the fan brush. And so you know a fan. You guys know what a fan looks like, but it's like a triangle, upside down triangle, but it has a curve at the top of it. And then the brush, because it's a brush, it usually has like a stick at the end. So it's like probably good like a skinny rectangle. So make it smaller. Boop. And so we have that. And so that design, yeah. So, and it's pretty simple. I was debating on like making it like a connection or something to like something smaller. Like one's a fan and then one's like what's it called? What's it called? Because you got like, there's so many different weapons in the world, but they connect. And so because they connect, oh, and also, so a really cool thing when designing weapons, what I love to do is watch weapon designing channels. Like when they like blacksmiths, is so cool, and you get to see how they design things. So when you design them, you start to know how they make sense. Like you have to have a grip. So like where would the character grip it? And I would say the character would grip it here, the character would grip it here. And so, and they can't grip it if it's like this, right? How are they gonna grip it? If they got like a hand this big, how are they gonna grip it? So you gotta make it grippable. Usually if it's thin, but then if it's too thin, you think it can hold all this weight? You think it can hold all this weight? So just something that's just reasonably sized, and it has some texture on it, so it looks like, so it's not shiny, it's not slippery. And then you can probably put the texture here of whatever design. And then with the chain, I just do something simple since it's far away. Like if it was close, you can probably like the famous chain. I used to practice drawing chains all the time, but it's usually just like I would draw like ovals on ovals on ovals, and then I would like do the go over it. And that's just like a basic chain design. But like I said, you gotta look at, just Google chains. You gotta stare at how the chains are made. But yeah, and so, and then and that's how you overlay them. And then of course you erase overlapping parts that you don't want to erase. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And that's just like a close up of the chain. But if it's far away, depending on, like if it's just a sketch, of course, you know, you just do that. But yes, it's a simple fan design. And then, like I said before, second best into the first, turn the value down, open it up. Let's see. Second best into opening it up. We go over it. So as for the fan, I say we just keep it. I'm debating whether or not I want it to be metal or if I want it to be. I say metal's fine, but it's still like based off of a makeup brush fan. And I know you guys have seen makeup brush fans, so it could probably be like, you know, just converging at the same point. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're not doing that. But yeah, that looks like a fan. And it's converging. I add a cylinder and a short cylinder, and then just a nice little weird texture thing going on here. And so just waves. It's just a cylinder but bumpier. So it's just like, you know, an S, but it's not. It's less S-ier. And then this is like a circle, a sphere. And then this is just a regular skinnier cylinder, and another sphere. And it may be smaller because this is where the chains will go. And then I just put probably some random lines here to show that this is where they grip. Yeah, but this is just a cute little texture. And you can play, this is where you play around. It could be spikes. It could be hairy. And this just comes with like studying weapons or watching blacksmiths and watching fantasy blacksmiths. I think there's one called Men at Arms. They do like anime. They make anime weapons in real life. It's really cool. But yeah, and the chains converging. Boop, 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 boop. And you do that. And then this is like a rectangle. And this could be like a what's called a sculpting brush. Very simple. Haven't thought that far yet. And don't be mad if you haven't thought that far yet. The goal is just to use basic shapes to get the idea across. I feel like this is just like the first step. And then, so yeah, we have that character down. I think we have three characters down. Look at us. Look at us. So yeah, the monster doesn't really have a weapon, so we have these two characters. Debating, let's do him. So the idea I had for him, he's like a villain. But it's like, all right, so tell me if this weapon is corny. It's a scythe. Like I couldn't think of anything. Like there's either two things. There was like, kids cover your ears. It's like it's either like a hookah machine where, cause his ability, he can negate abilities with like a dust he carries from his hands. And so he has like a hookah machine where he can make like inanimate objects from it. Or he have a scythe. But yeah, we'll do both. So I'm rough drawing it right now because I want to show you guys something. I'm just drawing straight from my mind. And also that's another cool concept. Don't feel obligated to be strict to your drawing. After you practice drawing structures and images as you see them, because like I said, I want you guys to practice drawing stuff you see that exists, like drawing hats, drawing cars, drawing whatever as you see them. Then use the time to let your mind wander. If you see like a magical scythe or something in your head, try to draw that. Try practicing drawing it in under 3 seconds. Try practice drawing it in under 2 seconds. And the goal is not to make it look as accurate, but the goal is to get what's in your head onto a paper as quickly as possible, so you can get it to look like how you want it to. And so But yeah, so that's what I just did here. So I wanted to let you guys know there are two ways to using shapes when just getting the sketch out or the idea out on paper. And so I just showed you one, which is line. So if I want to draw, let's say, a bottle, you can do it like this, a bottle. Or I make the brush bigger, you can do it like this. And that is two powerful ways when designing an object. And I think I did before in a live stream, because sometimes when you're designing characters or objects or anything, it can be hard. Doing it this way can be a lot faster to get your idea out, especially because they usually say you have to draw silhouettes, and silhouettes is pretty much, if you want to think of it human-wise, it's without seeing what it looks like, you get the idea of the figure. Looks like a human, looks like a kitty cat, what you think a kitty cat looks like, and so on and so forth. So let's say, I want to draw a scythe, but I want to draw an unconventional scythe. So first I say always draw what you stereotypically think looks like first. Scythe, or I guess, that's what I just saw in my head. But I guess a stereotypical scythe is that. Okay, different layer. Or so try to play around with that. Exaggerate some things. Play around with shapes. And do that as many times as you can, because it kind of unlearns you, or actually it expands your creativity as to what you expect something to look like, and gives options, especially when you're trying to create a character or a prop of some sort. But yeah, so with here, since we're, I guess, short on time, I already have the idea sketched out, ready to go, right here. So we're gonna take the silhouette, so we're in front now, and so we're going to. So like I said, that's another example of using line in shape. And so I'm just, in under a few seconds, just designing a weapon, and also, again, remember how it will be used. So where would the person grip it? I usually expect people to grip things in the middle, also expecting size. So how big is the person in comparison to the weapon? Is he this big? Is he this big? That is something to consider when designing your item. I kind of want this to be pretty. It also can be confusing, because you're just focusing on drawing the item, but then when you draw with the characters, it'd be cool if it's bigger than them, or it'd be cool if it's smaller than them. So I try to just give it a medium, go for a medium, and stick with that. But I know for certain that I want the grip to be here. This is it's kind of a gross, what's it called? It's kind of supposed to be like a gross weapon. So I put eyeballs on it. The only thing is that I don't want to go too deep into anatomy, so we're just gonna stick with that. But yeah, it's just gonna, it looks like a little parrot. But yeah, we're just gonna stick with the shape right now. And so, if you need help drawing organic shape like this, try to think of it as there's little balls just around the image, and then draw around, and then just keep doing that. And that's another way to draw like a tree or something. It's a way to do that. And then eventually you can practice drawing bigger or smaller waves around it. I don't want it to be this thick, so of course erasing is a great ability when playing around with shape and lines. But of course you don't want it too thin, because remember, that means it'll be easy to break. Okay. And so we're going to turn the value down again, go on top of it, and we're just going to black, and go on top of it. I'm just going to just do mostly just the outline of it. We can work on the imagination part later, because it's supposed to be bumpy. It's going to be very fleshy. I know it's dark, it's gross, but yeah, it's very outside layer. And then maybe, let's say, like that. And that's the fun part, because you get to decide. A little bumpy. It gets back to thick. Yeah, because we haven't decided how we want to look yet. Yeah. And then for this, I had an idea of putting lips here. But let's just simplify it right now. We're just getting the idea of shapes. Circle, square, maybe oval, and then possibly a pyramid. And then possibly a big circle here. And then maybe an upside down triangle. So yeah, and then let's see. Upside down triangle here, and then maybe a little. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. And then a little stick up here. Of course, a big circle here, and the spout on its side, like a rectangle. And then as for the tube, look of a snake, or just an S. Whee! Put an S on the side. And that's just pretty much the shape of it. And I should have done the same layer. Oh well. I just turned on layer for that. Go on top of it. And then I just draw the outline of it. Boop, boop. And we can worry about, like I said, we can worry about characterization later. But as for right now, we're just trying to get the silhouette how I want it to later. I'll give you guys a little hint of what the idea of the silhouette for this one could be. So like the idea, see, so the idea here, and that's why you can just use another layer. You can use a different color, and I want to put lips on here to look like it's blowing smoke. And see how that looks. And then on top, I was gonna probably do eyes, like tired looking eyes, and then probably play around with textures. But for right now, we're just creating cool little designs here. So like here, there's probably gonna be eyeballs and stuff and gross stuff. Well, but the goal was just to show you how I applied shape, line, and I guess we didn't do values here. Well, nah. But we're just doing shape and line, just to practice how I design shapes here. But yeah, and I guess that's a good little basis thing. As for this character, they're technically already holding their prop. The prop is a giant pencil. I could have gone with that first. But as for that, for that, it's just simply, I guess this is the easiest one. This is a rectangle, boop, and a triangle. And then you draw get the dimensions. You go down to center. And it doesn't have an eraser. And I can't tell you why right now. And then at the top, you do where the lead is. And that's pretty much a straight on prop weapon. An idea was to give it make it like a sword at some point. So you just extendo, I guess where the lead would be. So I guess the lead would extend out or melt out, and then you have a hilt, which would be straight across, like a straight across line, an extension of the hilt. My doggy! He's gonna make special appearances while I'm working. And then like little balls at the end. And it's a basic sword. That's pretty much it for that. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. Again, for Ko-fi, I'm gonna make sure to upload these notes for supporters. Thank you so much, and please stay tuned for more awesome content for you guys. The next step will probably be going into how I draw figures. What? Figure drawing? Yes. Figure drawing, and I'm gonna try to coincide it with landscapes. So how I do these cool little things if I have it. Yeah, that. And I was explaining how shapes go into here. And how shapes are used and perspective. Because I know, because at first for me I was like, oh, this is hard. But once you literally learn the most basic secret of perspective, landscapes are so easy. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. All right, see you soon. Bye.